The cost to pay off a ransom is increasing. The after effect costs of recovering from ransomware is increasing. Ransomware itself has shifted, right? It's not just like, hey, we're encrypting your data and holding you ransom. No, we're stealing it first because that is a more effective way to extort you, right? If I've got your sensitive data and I can show you I have it, you're more likely to pay me to protect it from being
distributed or whatever.
Yeah. Right. So I would say those are probably some of the big trends surrounding ransomware for sure.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guests, Dan and Aaron from Watchdog Cyber. And today we'll be diving a bit into their story, what it is their company does, and then some engaging insights into the technology industry, as always, right? So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Dan, Aaron, welcome to the Grow IT podcast, guys.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Guys, I think it might be a good idea that we kick things off if you guys could please introduce yourselves, and then, in the same breath, if you guys can just maybe give us a bit of basic background, a quick snippet of two of your story.
Okay. Sure. So Aaron and I worked together at a company for probably about 9 years together. And oddly enough, it was a copier company, and that industry changed where they started selling managed IT services and some other services because it became so commoditized. And so Aaron and I were doing assessments and things like that with companies. And what we saw was companies were basically not being secured properly. So IT people they had accounts and they would go in, they make things work, but they weren't making them secure. So Aaron and I just kind of talked a little bit about this and saw what was happening out in the marketplace and what was going on. And we decided to form Watchdog Cyber. And so now we go in and do vulnerability assessments, risk assessments, pen testing, and we've got a security stack that we can help IT people, right, help secure a business.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Aaron, your side?
Yeah, just to further expound on that a little bit, my background, I was an IT director at a school district in Southeast Michigan, and during my tenure there, we actually experienced a little bit of a cyber incident, and it was pretty much the worst 8 weeks of my life. having to having to reimage 3,200 devices
Oh my word.
three times over an 8 week period because people would keep clicking on an email or something stupid, right? So it was kind of after that experience I really became passionate about cybersecurity, right? My job role there at the district really transitioned from I'd come in every day and I'd kind of look at like how logins were being handled and started looking at normal tickets and what have you. And my focus really right? It really shifted into being like, all right, well, what's the firewall logs look like? What do the content filtering logs look like? What connections are coming out of this district on a regular basis? What connections are coming back inbound on a regular basis? So that's kind of where the bug came from for me. And like Dan said, we've done so many assessments to see where our colleagues are kind of missing the mark, and it's a huge gap to fill, and it's an important gap to fill.
Yep.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's always interesting for me when companies start out of a previous problem that occurred whilst the owners and co-founders were busy with something else, right?
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
they say, geez, we've got this problem, there's nobody here to like solve this properly. And well, in any case, it's thank you guys, such a good story. Guys, I would like to jump off to or rather, let's maybe start with a market, right? Based on your expertise, what would you guys say are like the current market trends at the moment in your space that you are aware of? What ways are the wind blowing these days? What have you guys been picking up?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I would say as far as trends are concerned, it's a pretty loaded question, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because you can talk about so many different
A
trends
lot.
happening in the
Uh,
marketplace. But some of what we're seeing is, obviously ransomware is a problem for everybody. It's not
yeah,
slowing down. Um, the cost to pay off a ransom is increasing. The after effect costs of recovering from ransomware is increasing. Um, Ransomware itself has shifted, right? It's not just like, hey, we're encrypting your data and holding you ransom. No, we're
yeah,
stealing it first because that is a more effective way to extort you, right? If I've got your sensitive data and I can show you I have it, you're more likely to pay me to
yeah.
protect it from being leaked.
Distributed or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would say those are probably some of the big trends, surrounding ransomware for sure. Dan, what do you got?
I would say even regulation, right? We're seeing the different changes. We're doing some work with PCI DSS compliance right now. That's changing. CMMC is changing. The regulations that the government is pushing down onto companies and even insurance providers. A cyber liability insurance provider now, they're looking to mitigate their risks. So they're putting that onus on the businesses to start putting in security controls. And if they don't, well, then that policy may not pay out. Even if they may not be able to get insured. You never know what'll happen, but they're getting more strict because they're paying out so much money. So they want to slow that down.
I must say that's one thing I never thought about was the insurance side of it. That's
Hmm.
very interesting, Um,
Yeah.
tell me, Dan, having said that, what would you say is, like the current market sentiment like at the moment?
So a big thing that Aaron and I see is we talk about this. There's a gap. There's a gap in businesses, and I'm going to use it as a broad stroke because
Yeah,
most companies leadership thinks the IT person is handling security, and the security person, we know IT people, and the majority of them are somewhat introverted. They have a hard time going to leadership and asking for more money for tools without explaining the benefits of it, why they should have it. So we
right.
actually go in and work with both sides. We're working with leadership and we're working with the IT people. We're not there to kick out the IT people. You have to have good, strong IT support, help desk support. You need to have that. But unfortunately, those guys are limited in their cybersecurity knowledge and thinking firewall, antivirus, endpoint, hey, we're good to go. Maybe some security awareness training when there's so many other tools that need to be put in place. So that's the general term right now, general thing that we see out in the marketplace is there's just a gap of an understanding of what's going on in the business.
Tell me, Aaron, I think it's maybe a good time now, if you don't mind, just to explain to the listeners what is it specifically what the company does.
So the purpose of our company is we focus specifically on cybersecurity and compliance. As Dan just said, right, there's a lot of really good IT folk out there. There's a lot of really good traditional MSPs out there. Um, that are providing the hardware support and the end user support, and we don't want to hurt those relationships, right?
Yeah,
But again, the gap that we're seeing is cybersecurity is taking a back seat, and I think Dan, he kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Is IT people in general are pretty introverted, and so they have trouble having those tough conversations, especially when it comes to making rather large investments. I mean, let's be honest, right? Cybersecurity investments are not always cheap.
yeah,
Um, and I don't like to use the words expensive or cheap because they're so relative, right? It all depends on you as and your
Mhm.
business, right? Whether something is cheap or expensive. I can tell you, you probably don't have a cybersecurity budget today, so it may seem expensive today. But what's more expensive is going through a breach and not having things in place to
Right.
mitigate your damage or minimize your damage for when the worst day of your business life comes.
Mhm.
And that's what Dan and I, that's why we went to business, was to help. either mitigate or minimize your damages when you're going through the worst day. We want to help businesses realize their digital risk and build a plan on how to manage it.
Dan, maybe something from your side, or did Aaron wrap it up?
No, he covered it pretty good. And we always kind of, you know, they don't know, right? Business leaders don't know what they don't know. So that's what we want to go in and make sure we can help educate them. So I mean, he got it spot on.
You know, the words that comes into my head now is like prevention rather than cure, right? When it comes to obviously the cyber, because I can fully agree, you know, obviously knowing our clients on our end, you know, whereas they you know, everybody's talking about, because it's quite expensive, and but I do fully understand that it's relative towards the risk, you know, that's out there. So you know, I kind of fully get it as well. But I do think, like I said, you know, prevention rather than cure, and you know, to
Right.
assist those companies on you know, on what's out there and what risks are there, and to, you know, to assist them to avoid those things from the beginning, I think is quite you know, a good value point, if I can say that. You know,
Yeah.
talking about value points, can you guys, you know, you've mentioned a couple of things that I could fully see, geez, this is a lot of value, you know, that you bring into the table. But you know, out of from your side, what would you guys say is the most significant value, right, that your business you know, brings to other businesses? Dan, if we can maybe kick off with you.
Yeah, sure. I think the value is the education side of it.
Yeah,
Because no one's going to really buy something just because you said they need it, right? They do have to
sure.
understand it. I don't think leadership doesn't need to understand how you know, endpoint security works. They just need to know, you know, what it's going to do for them, right? Again,
Yeah,
minimize or mitigate the risk of when a breach happens, and that's the goal, right? Is to bring that down. We have a slide in our presentation that talks about the cost, right? The impact that a breach would have on a business. And some people think they just pay the ransom and they're back in, you know, they're back to standard operating procedure. They're ready to go again. They don't
yeah,
realize the fines, the regulatory costs, all the remediation, the recovery, you know, sending out letters and notifications to all the people where their information was breached, all these things that start to come after the fact. And it starts to add up real quick. So again, we talked about cyber liability insurance earlier, but some people have their policies they're getting from agents. Agents don't even understand what they're selling to these people. So it's really again, we keep saying education, but it really is education, talking about all these pieces to be able to put them all in place, mitigate the
yeah.
risk of an attack when it happens, because we know it's just a matter of when. So we try to help solve that for businesses.
Excellent. Aaron, maybe something you want to add to value?
Yeah, I think the other valuable piece that we bring to the table is, you know, the security stack that I've taken the time to vet and build, and the partnerships that we've created. Um, you can hire somebody like us, right? Um, and you get all the tool sets and you get a pretty large team making sure that your business is watched 24/7, 365. And you can do that for a fraction of what it would cost to build your own team internally, right? You can
That's a
hire a
good point.
CISO, right? It's going to be anywhere from I think the current numbers based off of current Robert Half salary guide is like 175,000 to 250,000 for just a CISO, right? And that's going to be your visionary guy. You're going to have to hire at least one or two security technicians, and you still have to make the tool set investment, right? We're bringing all of that to the table for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. The if you guys don't mind, maybe to latch onto that, Dan, do you perhaps maybe have an example of, obviously cannot name your client's name. I think that's gonna get me in trouble, right? Um,
We don't want that.
we don't want that. You know, just an example of where, you know, maybe somebody that you guys have worked with, where you know, there was like proper value that like pulled through, and it's
Sure.
you know, a happy customer for that matter.
Sure. So we have a client that has 165 people in the company, and we went in and started working with them. So there's a director of IT and then 2 other IT technicians.
Yeah.
So when we did the first assessment, we went through and there were some things that he's like, yeah, we haven't got to that. Yeah, when we showed him what we found, all the findings. Yeah, well, I knew about that. I didn't know there was that many, or yeah, I didn't really know about that. So, um, looking at a network and finding these vulnerabilities and bringing them to light for people, even in from the IT side, they're like, yeah, I know, and we have to get on that. So bringing that, being able to put some tools in place, being able to show them, and then and create really a partnership. So they've been a client for with us for about 2 years now, and we've put in other tools. We're starting to do other assessments, and the other part of it is they're in logistics, so they're now the manufacturers they're working with. They came in and did their own risk assessment, and
Yeah.
they're starting to look at third parties, right? So now these
Yeah.
larger companies are looking at third party and they want them to have things in place.
Oh,
So
got
they're
it.
already started down this journey, so they're in a better light. And it's just, yeah, you have to start this journey at some point because cost is always going to be a factor. Start
Yeah.
now, start putting things in place, get a strategic plan in place. If you wait for a breach to happen, it's going to be 10x, if not
Mm.
more, because of all the other stuff that we talked about that you have to pay for. So start the journey, start it now, put a strategic plan in place, and start implementing things. And give yourself 12 months to get the right tools in place, get the right budget in place. It's just a matter of time. You're going to have it anyways.
I'm thinking now of actually one of our clients that had a similar challenge, like what you mentioned now, and the biggest thing actually that I've learned out of that was, and I think this might have been the same case with this scenario, is you guys go into to obviously go fix a problem and obviously provide them with security, but once you bring back those findings, you guys have picked up so many other things that you weren't
Right.
initially called out for, if I can just put it simply.
Yeah.
And then actually assist them to obviously, and able to assist them with all these other types of challenges that they've got as well, because a lot of times the people that find that they've got a challenge are at a level in the company that do not know the intricacies, the nitty gritties on the
Right.
on ground level. So yeah, man, I fully get that. I think that's quite profound what you guys do. Aaron, in your opinion, I mean, you guys have been at this for quite some time, right? What type of mindset would you say is needed to be like you guys, a successful founder of a company?
So I'll be the first to say entrepreneurship, it's hard, right? It's
Yeah.
not made for everybody.
No.
Um, it's there's going to be days in which you're going to be like just downtrodden, right? Like you're going to have a day or you're going to have a week where it's just like, dang, is this the right thing? Like, did I make the right move professionally? And then there's going to be times where Dan and I are right now, where it's just like, we've been so busy the last, God, I would say 3 months that
Yeah.
I mean, our level of enthusiasm, our level of a positivity, I mean, it's through the roof right now, right? And so I think it's the same with anything, is like once you start in those mindsets of being more positive and having a more positive outlook, it's just again reframing yourself to always think about that and
Yeah.
then keeping the momentum moving forward with it, right? Um, because positivity brings positivity,
Yeah.
right? And it's so easy to get into that negative mindset and then just let it completely just derail everything. So I think focusing on the positive is highly important, and it's definitely something I do daily, right? I try to definitely look at things that are happening for us, both professionally and personally, and say, all right, well, yeah, life seems bad, but it's not bad, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Dan, something from your side?
I would just say, that's spot on. Talking to people, some people, they say, what was it? Some will, some won't. So what next, right? Some people just don't get it, and they're fine we've had people say we're going to cross our fingers and hope nothing happens. Hey, that's not a strategy, but better, good luck to you, you know?
Yeah.
I think it is just, you got to keep going. And I think the conversations that we've been having with people, I think some of the larger breaches that happened earlier this year, and I'll say, United Health, everyone's been getting letters from them that their information was breached. And I think that starts to change a little bit of the sentiment out in the marketplace, because people are now wanting to know, right? Like I said, we've been doing a lot of risk assessments, a lot of pen testing. I think people are starting to open their eyes a little bit, say, I want to make sure we do have the right things in place, or I want to make sure we don't have these vulnerabilities that people are talking about. And, are we truly protected? So,
Yeah. Tell me, guys, where can the listeners get hold of you guys?
So you can go to our website, which is watchdogcyber.com. That's one way to do it. And there's a lot of information out there. You can call us. Our number is 517-928 2436.
Excellent. Well, Dan, Aaron, thank you guys so much for hopping on today. Out of those value points that you guys mentioned, I can fully understand why you guys are so successful and on this upwards curve. All the best to the both of you and the business, and may you only grow from strength to strength. Thanks for hopping on.
Yep. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.